So I've been keeping myself busy and trying to maintain my motivation. I don't know where my motivation really comes from. Um, it might be hard to explain. It's kind of like um, it's like a roller coaster, really. It's like peaks and valleys. At one point, I'm on top of a peak and I feel motivated and I want to do stuff and better myself and all that sort of thing. And then suddenly I'm just going down to a valley. And I I had a sort of like after um, sometime in October, I just stopped uploading entirely, and I think because I just sort of gave up for quite a while, and I understand that the winter is a very difficult time um, to it's a very difficult time because you know that other people are living normal lives and having family get-togethers and all that sort of thing, and then you've got nothing. So it's a difficult time. So I felt extremely low mood. Some days I just couldn't be bothered to get out of bed, and it was very difficult to encourage myself to do anything. I couldn't even be bothered to record anything, and so yeah, that was a real hiatus, really. What, mid October to the end of December? Yeah, that was a proper hiatus. Yeah, but yeah, it's a um, it's a rough time of year because you really should. Well, by my age, I should really should have have things that I've always wanted by this point, but obviously not. Anyway, um, so last week I built a shelter over the woods. Um, you know, so that kept me busy. That kept me doing something because it gave me sort of I had motivation and stuff, and I had ideas, and I thought, I'm going to build a shelter and do some filming over the woods. Um, that would be quite cool. But oh yeah, I have an idea basically uh, who is behind why I had a little visit.
But you have no weapons, no defenses, no plan!
Yeah. And doesn't that scare you to death?
Anyway, so I had um, an idea to um, do some filming and all that sort of thing in the woods or in my shelter, but it's nice and secluded over there, so I thought it would be quite a perfect place. However, it turns out it's much more. There's a lot more activity around there than I originally believed. As I would go over there, well, I would obviously find litter and stuff like that, and like remnants of a campfire in summer, but there would be no people. I wouldn't come across any people. Um, so um, but I come back. When was it? At the weekend, I think. And I come back to the shelter, and I'm walking along, and I come in, and I could hear people laughing in the distance, and so I approached nice and slow, nice and quietly, and then I was standing literally right behind this lad who was sitting on my stall that I built. Yeah, it was nothing special. It was just I basically cut some branches off as like the to make as like the 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 legs, right, and then got a plank to put over the top, and then sort of put a nail through and through the things. Anyway, there was this lad sitting on my stall that I built, and I'm standing directly behind him, and there's these two other lads sitting the other side, and then they both looked up and saw me standing over this lad, and I gave him a little fright. But they seemed they seemed friendly. They said, "Oh, did you build this? Did you build this shelter?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I might have done." Well, and they said, "Well, you can. We'll leave if you want us to leave." And I said, "No, no, no. It's you know, I whoever built it, I would imagine the intention behind it was to keep to give people shelter, you know, and it was starting to rain on that day as well. So I said, no problem whatsoever." And so yeah, I just said to them, "All right, well, take care, lads. Goodbye." And so I walked off, and then I go over the fields and start coming back towards the village, the Shire. And so I kept thinking, go back and talk to them, go back and talk to them, go and learn more, go and talk to them. And I was thinking, I don't really want to go and talk to them. So then eventually I just thought, all right, fine, I'll walk back. So I walked back, and I ended up back in the woods, and I sort of I walk back up, and they go, "Oh, he returns, he returns." So I wandered up, and then it started pouring down with rain, and I come in, and I took a seat on my stall, and so I started chatting to these lads, and they're like late 20s, construction worker type lads, and they're very chavvy. They're in there because they were smoking weed, obviously. They they were saying that they don't know what else to do with themselves. Um, you know, lads in their late 20s is I suppose is peculiar for them to be hanging around in the woods smoking weed. You would normally expect kids or teenagers, but they just said, "Well, we got the day off and all this sort of thing," and yeah, they were quite friendly and chatty, and I said, there was three of them, so there was like an Ed and Eddie dynamic as I see it, because you got the one who is he's monged out and he's like not even on the planet, right? And then you got the other one who's too chill and he don't really give a shit. And then you got the other one who's a bit more he's a bit more clued in, right? And so I was mainly talking to him, so the equivalent of double D, I suppose. And you know, I was sort of saying, yeah, I think he was the one. He was. I think that he was just like, I think this guy built the place, built the shelter because he was a little bit more clued in than the other two. Um, but anyway, so I asked them, uh, you know, do you live around here? And they said, well, we grew up here, but we moved away because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do around here. But we come back every so often because we're bored and we like the area. It's nice and quiet. Um, so I said, do either any of you have girlfriends? And they were like, no, none of us have girlfriends. And I said, oh, okay. So, well, that's a shame. Uh, do you like? Because they seemed like, I don't know, like chavs, like normal extroverted young lads, and I would assume that they probably had uh, interaction with females. I assumed, but they were just like no, and so I said, why is that? Why do you think that is? And they were just like, well, um, women don't want to do anything anymore. Women don't want families and all this sort of things, and we just go, fuck it, we're just going to smoke weed. And I thought, that's interesting. So it's yeah, it's a shit situation, isn't it? But yeah, it was a interesting social interaction I had. But they seemed friendly, and I think they also um, they were like, I think we've seen you before. You're always walking. You're always walking about. And I'm going, yeah, probably. I literally I walk everywhere and anywhere, and I walk for fucking miles. So probably. And they're like, didn't you used to have long hair? And I was like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did used to have long hair. Yeah, it's not as thick and full as it used to be, and yeah, I've shaved my head more than twice. So yeah, yeah, with um, hair loss, for men, it's like at first you get really worried about it, and you get really sort of you think, oh, I'm ugly. People are not going to want to know. Women are not going to want to know because who wants to be with a man who's like balding and stuff. But then, you know, nothing ever happens in your life, and you just think, oh, fuck it, who gives a shit anymore? And so, yeah, I've been kind of growing it out a little bit. It's coming down beneath my ears and sort of curling at the back there. The top, the back and sides is fine, but the top looks pretty awful. I'm gonna be honest. Like my brother come round the other day and he said to me, um, "I can see your scalp." No, he said, "Nice scalp, old man," because yeah, it's really quite thin on the top, and yeah, it does. It's one of the worst things for a man, I think. If a man is like starting to go bald, then it's really difficult. But yeah, you just get to a point where you just think, oh fuck it, who cares anymore? Because it's for me. It started when I was about 23, and I always had like long hair, and I when I went to college, I was like 17, 16, and I argued with my parents like I don't want to have my hair cut, and I want to do my own thing. I just want. I don't give a shit. I just want long hair. And so, yeah, it was long and it was thick and it was full, but then I got to like 23 and then it all started to recede, um, uh, and it became very noticeable. And then it, a few years later, when I got to like 25, like the crown started to get bigger. And so then, yeah, and the hair on the top just started to get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. Now it's just like I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do with it. I can't really comb it anywhere. It looks awful. So I think, um, yeah, it's just so thin. Um, yeah, I'm like touching the scalp. So I think at some point I'll probably just shave my head. I'll probably just say fuck it and shave my head. I'm just being lazy at the moment, I suppose. Um, it doesn't look too bad when I've got my hat on. I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, I uh, yeah, chatted to these lads for a bit, and then I decided to leave. And then yeah, it just occurred to me that, well, I guess the area is there's a little bit more activity than I originally thought. And there are kids over there who turn up with their motorbikes and stuff like that. So then I was taking the dog for a walk the other day, and I was coming down to the woods, but on the side of the road um, there was this bloke who'd parked up on the side, and he had a truck, and he was basically collecting shit on the side there because apparently that's where people go fly tipping. And I walked past, and he said, "Have you seen um, tins of paint on the side here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did, but I'm afraid they're gone now. Someone's collected them." And he said, "Yeah, I collected them because they were just dumped on the side there. Um, and then after a few days, they were knocked over, and the paint just spilled everywhere." And I was like, "Oh shit! Well, it weren't me." He was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Is all this stuff here all because of fly tipping as well? Because it's like piles of fencing, just stacks of fences and stuff." And he's like, "Yep, this has all been fly tipped." And I said, "I didn't see anybody. This must have taken for ages to just be dumped here." And I said, "This, I didn't see anybody." But yeah, I don't usually notice stuff that's like been fly tipped or anything. I just I find a lot of litter, but I don't really find stuff like that or like washing machines or anything. And he's like, "Yeah, we got all sorts of stuff down here." Um, I've noticed that there's over the woods now. There's a lot of cars that go down there. They go down all the way down the bottom, and I'm thinking, well, it's probably to do with the owners of the land, as it's private land. There's no signs or anything. There's no signs to say that you can't go in that woods or anything. Uh, but yeah, I don't. So I said to this fella, he seemed to be clued in. So I asked him. So why is all these vehicles and stuff going down the bottom there? And he's like, oh, they're whoever owns the land, as it's privately owned, they're planning to. They got permission and funding to do something in the woods there. And I was like, oh, okay, what do they plan to do? And he's like, well, a lot of the trees are going to be coming down, and yeah, they're going to be sending lots of diggers and stuff down there. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, it's all going to go. And I said, I've been coming here for like over 20 years. I come down here because it keeps me out of trouble, but it's always, I don't intend to cause any trouble. I come down here and I've been camping down in the woods and stuff, and it will be a shame to have it all go. And he said, yeah, I think kids and stuff, they get bored and they go down there. And he's like, have you seen someone has built a shelter down there? It's quite impressive, actually. Have you seen that? And I said, oh yeah, I might have noticed it. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, I've been speaking to someone, and apparently they want to pull that down. They don't want kids going over there and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, fair enough. All right then. Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's not my land. it's not. It's not my land anyway. So, but it's a shame that that woods is just going to go. And I feel like I mentioned this um, before. I feel like I said something similar, where I said that I thought that it doesn't matter if there's a piece of land that's got loads of woods and stuff like that. Um, if somebody wants to do something with it, like the government, if the government wants to build a bunch of buildings on it, a housing estate and stuff, they're going to do it because they don't have any housing. There's no housing left, so they're going to do it. And I've said that before, and so yeah, now like yeah, it's going to be built on, and shit. But yeah, that's gonna be a shame. There's where else is there for me to go that's nice and secluded around here? Nowhere. There's going to be nowhere left. So I'll just have to find somewhere new. Or better yet, um, preferably buy my own land. Um, so if I get my own land, it'll be under my protection. I'll never do anything with it. I'll probably build a temporary dwelling. Um, you know, not a home made out of bricks and mortar or nothing. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to disturb the local wildlife or anything. And yeah, they will. They will be disturbing the local wildlife down there, as I've heard. Owls. I've seen squirrels and foxes and all sorts of deer and all sorts of animals down there. And there's even evidence of badgers. I've never seen any badgers, but there seems to be like badger burrows and stuff like that. And I would imagine they've done a survey of the area, so they're just like, fuck it, we're doing it. So they got the go ahead. So, but yeah, so I think that would be really great if I got my own land that I can protect myself. It's under my protection, right? It's not up to anybody else to do anything with. The government can't just say, "Oh, we're gonna build a housing estate there." You can't because it's my land. So, or preferably if it's like if there's an old cottage on the land, if it's like an old abandoned cottage with maybe a barn and stuff like that, that would be fantastic. And I'd just renovate the cottage. That'd be fantastic. And have a vegetable garden, have some chickens and all that sort of thing. That'd be great. That'd be so good. Um, and yeah, and I'll have no reason to build anything because it will all be there. Um, yeah, maybe, but land is getting more and more expensive. I don't know how realistic that will be, but I still haven't got my inheritance from my grandmother yet. Um, if I when I finally get that inheritance, I'll be looking into it. But yeah, I don't know how realistic it'll be. Um, Obviously, it's not going to be easy. I understand that. That sort of thing is not going to be easy at all, and it's not meant to be. So, um, but I'm sure I could figure it out. Um, but I don't know. I need to probably consult somebody, get some advice. But yeah, it's just an idea. I'm not doing anything yet. Obviously, I don't have the money. But it's just an idea. It's just a dream of mine, really. But yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Then I'll just need a wife. Just need a wife, have some kids, and then that'd be perfect. that would be fantastic. It really would. But yeah. So yeah, that would be good. If I could figure something out. Yeah, that's what we really need to do. Is we need to just, if there's any unregistered land as well, just claim it, and any other land that's for sale, we need to claim it. We need to protect it from people wanting to build on it. We need to become more connected to the natural world. Living in towns and cities is extremely unnatural. You know, we're not termites. We're human beings. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what we can do in the future. When I was a kid, I remember watching. I was very into DC, like DC Comics and stuff. I was very into Batman and Superman. I grew up on the TV series, the cartoons, Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, and Justice League. Batman Beyond as well. But yeah, it was all. Well, they were all very good shows, and yeah, I don't really care about the cape shit. I don't really care about watching superhero movies and stuff. I suppose Joker is an exception. Um, but I think the last like proper I think Man of Steel was probably the last one I went to see, and that was like 2013. Um, I found that I wasn't particularly that interested in the film, really. The only thing that really drew my attention was Zod. I think he was the most interesting. I would argue that he's probably the most relatable and interesting villain that I've ever seen in a superhero film. I thought Superman himself, I thought he was boring. I thought everyone else was boring. But Zod was the one I think carried the entire film. You know, you understand his motivation, you understand why he feels the way that he does. Um, uh, it's not a perfect film by all means. I mean, you get to the end, and it's just an extended action sequence that just goes on way too long. I understand why it goes on for that long, because there's two Ubermensch fighting each other who are both on the same level as abilities and stuff. So it makes sense for why it goes on for that long. But it just goes on for so long that I remember being in the cinema watching it and just getting a headache. I just got a headache, and I'm thinking, Superman doesn't exactly do any saving in this movie. He doesn't actually. I suppose he saves Lois, the ginger Lois, from a black hole. Well, I feel that's so retarded. She's falling, right? She's falling away from the black hole, but everything else is being sucked into the black hole. And I'm thinking, why isn't she being sucked in the black hole as well? But blockbuster movies, they don't really give a shit about scientific accuracy, right? And the same reason why I don't like the new Star Trek movies, the Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness and Beyond. I think those are awful movies, and it's not what Star Trek is supposed to be, and it's not what all the scientific accuracy is what Star Trek really focused on. Um, but but yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, at the end of Star Trek Beyond, they defeat an alien fleet with music. That is so retarded. That is so stupid. Anyway, yeah, Man of Steel is obviously not Star Trek, but yeah, but I'm just sitting there thinking, why isn't she being sucked into the black hole as well? It's stupid. But yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but the best thing about the movie, I feel, was Zod. So the most relatable and interesting villain that I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Where obviously you got the Joker in the Dark Knight, and then obviously Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is quite understandable, but the Dark Knight Joker is just, he just wants chaos. He just wants to destroy shit for no reason. I suppose that those two Jokers are very interesting portrayals, but I would argue that Zod is much more interesting, because you could say when it comes to the end, he just makes his mind up. He's going to fight Superman to the death. He's going to die by the sword, and so when it comes right to the end, I've heard people say, why doesn't Zod? Why does Zod take so long to burn these people? That's so retarded. And I'm thinking, I think he just wants Superman to kill him. That's what I think. That's how I choose to interpret that. He just wants Superman to kill him. He just wants to push him to, because he's made his mind up and he just wants to die by that point. And yeah, so yeah. But yeah, that I haven't really seen any superhero movies in the cinema for years. That was probably the last one, because that was like yeah, I liked DC when I was a kid, and so when they were starting up the DC universe thing, to finally have a Justice League movie, I was intrigued. I felt, well, you can't beat the animated series, but finally we've got a Justice League movie. So, and I know these characters. Like when the Marvel movies came out, I didn't know any of these characters, and I didn't give a shit. And it was too the humor was too annoying. The Justice League and all that stuff. Well, those movies were just a little bit too serious, I suppose. It's not how they were in the cartoons, how I remember. But yeah, then I would say that 2017 is probably the worst year ever for films, and that was the point when I said I don't want to go to the cinema to see a blockbuster movie ever again. I don't want to know. I don't give a shit. We have peaked. We have reached. We have already peaked. We're like, since like the Lord of the Rings, we have just been declining since then, and now we've reached the point of cultural stagnation. As I watched the Justice League movie in the cinema, and then I watched the Rise of the Last Jedi, whatever that one was called. But yeah, I saw those two, the Star Wars movie and the Justice League movie in the cinema, and I was so disappointed with Justice League. I thought, what the fuck? This is just shit. I mean, the last one, I wasn't really impressed with the one before, which was the Batman and the Superman and the Wonder Woman They all show up in this film, and Lex Luthor is awful. He is so terrible in this film. And then you've got the what was it? An ogre that they have to fight at the end, which is supposed to be Doomsday, but it's not that great. And they're also like rushing through it. They're rushing through the death of Superman and all that stuff. They're just rushing through everything. And then you come to Justice League, and it was just awful. It was just terrible and cringe. And yeah, that was the point when I said, okay, I don't want to see any more fucking DC movies. And then Joker came out, and I did see Joker, but yeah, Joker's good. But yeah, I just thought DC is just fucked. I don't give a shit anymore. But yeah, then I saw Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which is one of the worst Star Wars films I've ever seen, and it's the last Star Wars film I've seen. I don't want to watch any more Star Wars movies. I'm done. That movie just ruined everything. It completely destroyed everything. Right? It ruined Luke Skywalker as a character. The same guy who tried so hard to bring his father back to the light. He tries to murder his own nephew in his sleep. This is supposed to be the same guy. And I'm thinking, no. This isn't. Luke wouldn't do that. Luke wouldn't kill his own nephew over a bad dream. He just, no. That's just, no. That's terrible. That is a terrible idea. And even Mark Hamill wanted to disassociate with the character after that film as well. I mean, I wasn't really that impressed with The Force Awakens either. Everybody was hyped over that, and I went to the cinema to see that as well, and I wasn't really that fussed. I was like, this is just rehashing. The whole story is just the same as A New Hope. Well, you could just watch A New Hope. And the characters are young and in their prime in A New Hope. I don't want to see them elderly, and I don't care about these new characters either. So I was kind of like, I'm not fussed. But I thought the next one is going to be the deciding factor, basically, of whether or not I have any interest in Star Wars anymore. And it ended up being absolutely terrible, and yeah, I'm done. I was just like, nope, I'm done. I'm done with Star Wars. It's over. It's finished. I didn't even bother watching Rogue One. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about who got the Death Star plans and all that stuff. I don't care. That. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, the prequels were not really great, were they? They weren't really that great. Okay. They were. They had some interesting ideas, and there were some interesting characters that I wish we knew more about. Like, Darth Maul looked really interesting. He looked cool, right? His character was extremely limited, He, we didn't have much to go on. It's not to say that he didn't have a character, but we just didn't have much to go on, as with the character that was presented. I think that Qui-Gon Jinn is actually a really interesting character, and I wish that we learned more about him. There is a scene where he's talking to Obi-Wan on Coruscant, and they're talking about where Obi-Wan's like, well, Master, you're not going to be they're not going to let you onto the council if you choose to do things like this. And it's like, why was he, he's a master and he's not on the council. That's intriguing. I want to know more about this. But then he dies, and then that's it. Oh, okay, never mind. Dooku, you could say, oh, he doesn't have any character either. Well, I think there's something there. There's something there, but it's the same problem. Is that there's something interesting there, but we don't get to learn much more about it. So I think it's the same issue. But yeah, overall the prequels are not very good. But there were some interesting things in there, and I would say that those weird and interesting things make the prequels more interesting than what we get today. However, Jar Jar Binks is still terrible. He's still completely worthless, and yeah, he's awful, rightfully so, rightfully hated. I mean the character, not the actor. I don't know. It's not his fault, but the character is awful. But the movie, the prequels, we shouldn't have. I feel like we shouldn't have gone that far back. We shouldn't have gone all the way back to when Anakin was a child. You know, that's too far back. You know, to we have Darth Vader, who's a really intimidating character. I don't want to see him as a child. You know, but yeah. So yeah, another thing I've noticed with modern Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, is that there's cutesy shit. Now, yeah, there was cutesy shit in Return of the Jedi and with the Ewoks, which I would argue ruined the film. But when I think of Star Wars, I don't want to see cutesy shit. You know, I want to see cool monsters like the Rancor, or the Yeti, or the arena battle in Attack of the Clones. Those kinds of monsters are what I want to see from Star Wars. I don't want to see Ewoks. I don't want to see a baby Yoda. I don't want to see things like that. I don't want to see all that gay shit. Yeah, but anyway, 2017 was the year that basically killed it for me, killed my interest in going to see movies ever again, and it made me think, like, if I'm going to go to the cinema, it's going to be something really specific. And so, like The Northman, for example, that I went to the cinema to see The Northman. What else have I been to see? That's about it. Yeah, that's the last thing I went to see in the cinema. So it has to be something real. Oh, I should have gone to see Nosferatu. Nosferatu is definitely right up my street. Is definitely something I should have seen in the cinema, but I didn't. I missed out on that. I remember when people were complaining that there's too much nudity in the film or something. Whether if there's an appropriate amount, but people were complaining about there being nudity in it at all. That there being nudity in it in general, and it's like, so do you not like seeing an attractive white woman or something? Like, it's very strange. Were you gay? Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, I suppose. For now, goodbye.